Hi, my name is Thallis Santesteban, and I will be reading for Jane. Thank you very much for taking my submission. At 18 years of age, I had no family and no connections. I had been at Lowood School for 8 years, 6 as a pupil and then 2 years as a teacher. Reader, my world was Lowood. My experience had been of its rules and systems, but I knew that the real world was wide and that a varied field of hopes and fears, of sensations and excitement awaited those who had the courage to go forth into its expanse, to seek real knowledge of life amidst its perils. I knew nothing of the world beyond Lowood, and I yearned to know more. I desired liberty. For liberty I gasped. For liberty I uttered a prayer. It seemed scattered on the wind, then faintly blowing. I abandoned it and framed a humbler supplication. For change, stimulus. That petition, too, seemed swept off into vague space. Then I cried, half desperate, grant me at least a new servitude. What did I want, reader? I wanted change. A new place, in a new house, amongst new faces, under new circumstances. I wanted this because it was of no use wanting anything better. How do people do to get a new place? They apply to friends, I suppose. I have no friends. There are many others who have no friends, who must look about for themselves, to be their own helpers. What is their resource? I had no knowledge how to proceed. It came to me like a suggestion from a kind fairy. I must advertise for a position. A young lady accustomed to tuition, had I not been a teacher for 2 years, is desirous of meeting with a situation in a private family where the children are under 14. As I was barely 18, it would not do to undertake the guidance of pupils closer my own age. She is qualified to teach the usual branches of a good English education, together with French, drawing, and music. In those days, reader, this now narrow catalogue of accomplishments would have been tolerably comprehensive. Address, Jane Eyre, Post Office, Loughton, Yorkshire.
It is always the way of events in this life. No sooner have you got settled in a pleasant resting place than a voice calls out to you to rise and move on, for the hour of repose is expired.
Must I move on, then, sir? Must I leave Thornfield?
I believe you must, Jane. I'm sorry, Janet, but I believe indeed you must.
Well, sir, I shall be ready when the order to march comes.
It has come now. I must give it tonight.
Then you are going to be married, sir?
Exactly, precisely. With your usual acuteness, you hit the nail straight on the head.
Soon, sir?
Very soon. That is, Miss Eyre. Adele must go to school, and you, Miss Eyre, must get a new situation.
Yes, sir. I will advertise immediately. In the meantime, I suppose...
In about a month, I hope to be a bridegroom. And in the interim, I shall myself look out for employment and an asylum for you. Indeed, I have already, through my future mother-in-law, heard of a place that I think will suit. It is to undertake the education of 5 daughters of Miss Dionysus of Gaul of Bitternut Lodge, Connaught, Ireland. You'll like Ireland, I think.
It is a long way off, sir.
No matter. A girl of your sense will not object to the voyage or the distance.
Not the voyage, but the distance. And then the sea is a barrier.
From what, Jane?
From England, and from Thornfield, and...
Well?
From you, sir. It is a long way away.
It is, to be sure. And when you get to Bitternut Lodge, Connaught, Ireland, I shall never see you again, Jane. That's morally certain. I'll never go to Ireland, not having myself much of a fancy for the country. We have been good friends, Jane, have we not?
Yes, sir.
And when friends are on the eve of separation, they like to spend the little time that remains to them close to each other. It is a long way to Ireland, Janet, and I'm sorry to send my little friend on such weary travels. But if I can't do better, how is it to be helped? Are you anything akin to me, do you think, Jane? Because I sometimes have a queer feeling with regard to you, especially when you are near me, as now. It is as if I had a string somewhere under my left ribs, tightly and inextricably knotted to a similar string, situated in the corresponding quarter of your little frame. And if that boisterous channel, 200 miles or so of land, come broad between us, I am afraid that cord of communion will be snapped. And then I've a nervous notion I should take to bleeding inwardly. As for you, you'd forget me.
That I never should, sir. You know.
Jane, do you hear that nightingale singing in the wood? Listen.
I wish that I had never been born, or never come to Thornfield.
Because you are sorry to leave it?
I grieve to leave Thornfield. I love Thornfield. I love it because in it I have lived a full and delightful life, momentarily at least. I have not been trampled on. I've not been petrified. I've not been buried under inferior minds and excluded from every glimpse of communion with what is bright and energetic and high. I have talked face to face with what I reverence, what I delight in, with an original, a vigorous, an expanded mind. I have known you, Mr. Rochester, and it strikes me with terror and anguish to feel that I absolutely must be torn away from you forever. I see the necessity of departure, and it is like looking on the necessity of death.
Where do you see the necessity?
Where? You have placed it before me.
In what shape?
In the shape of Miss Ingram, a beautiful and noble woman, your bride.
My bride? What bride? I have no bride.
But you will soon.
Yes, I will. I will.
Then I must go. You have said it yourself.
No, you must stay. I swear it. And the oath shall be kept.
I tell you, I must go! Do you think I can stay to become nothing to you? Do you think I'm an automaton, a machine without feelings, and can bear to have my morsel of bread snatched from my lips, and my drop of living water dashed from my cup? Do you think, because I am poor, obscure, small and plain and little, that I am soulless and heartless? You think wrong. I have as much soul as you and full as much heart. And if God had gifted me with some beauty and much wealth, I would have made it as hard for you to leave me as it is now for me to leave you. I am not talking to you through the medium of custom conventionalities. It is my spirit that addresses your spirit, as it both had passed through the grave, and we stood now at God's feet, equal, as we are.